What's up, guys? Welcome into another edition of Bogey Free. We are coming at you with some Week 14 action, and I am joined, as always, by the listener league winner this week, Steve Falufka. What's going on, Steve?
And feeling good. Yeah, taking down another listener league. This makes it two apiece for the hosts of this great podcast. So, gonna have to break that tie eventually coming up. So it's just good times all around.
Yeah, we got a couple more cracks at that. We finally got rid of that schlub Ben McAdoo. Where things are
Feeling
looking
great.
up.
Feeling great. Giant land. Oh yeah,
Arrow's pointing up now. Nowhere to go but up from here. So
that's right.
yeah, man. So, real quick, we can take a look at your lineup here. I actually just mentioned it to Steve. I didn't even realize that he won. My friggin' lineup was just an unmitigated disaster. So I quickly stopped paying attention to this and was watching our boy friend of the show Wedge puts up a Fire DFS winner take all contest, and I took that down this week with a slightly better lineup than the one I put in this, but nowhere near 191. So you want to walk us through your rationale here, because there's a lot of goodness to be had here.
Yeah, so I was stacking up the Chargers. Thought they were in a really great spot against the Browns. Didn't look like that for a while. So I had Rivers, Keenan Allen, and Hunter Henry in a triple stack there. Running back, I went real cheap, but with three of them, with Alex Collins, Kenyon Drake, and Theo Riddick. Once I knew Riddick was going to be in my lineup as soon as I found out that Abdullah was going to miss this game. Went with Nuke, who was almost 50% owned, then Robbie Anderson playing against the Chiefs, who have just been getting torched on the back end, and then Rams D to finish it up against Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, and I mean the game that Keenan had at 8% in this in the listener league. 8% is a little egregious. I know I didn't play him either, but I mean I felt like that was a little shocking to me.
Yeah, it seemed a bit low, especially with that spot against Cleveland, who's been susceptible. I know Jason McCourty's having a hell of a year, but they move Keenan around so much that I feel like he's just been a monster these last few weeks, and I'm going to ride him until he fails me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so congrats again, and why don't we shoot over to quarterbacks real quick? We can start up at the top. We have I mean, overall, I think this is a pretty interesting week. I think there's a lot of guys who we wish we could play that are in not so great spots. I think there's some guys that we don't really want to play that seem to be in good spots. It's going to be there's a lot of decisions this week, and of course, no teams on bye, so we have even more decisions than usual to sort of parse through. So where are you starting off? I guess we can sort of take like the top 4 or 5 guys. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have Wentz all the way up top. He should be in a good bounce back spot against the Rams this week. 7,100 though, I don't think I'll be having much exposure to him in cash. Where I'm really looking for my cash games is kind of going back to the well with Phillip Rivers. He's been on a hot streak. They're a home favorite, implied total up over 25 for their team playing Washington. Even though Washington's got a longer break than the Chargers, I still like Rivers this week at 68. Alex Smith, I know, obviously it seems like he might be chasing points, but the Raiders secondary is just so terrible. They're home. They're a 4-point favorite, pretty decent over-under here at 47.5. So for 6,500, Alex Smith also has that rushing upside that he showed last week as well. So I think in cash games, I'm probably going to be centering my lineups around Rivers and Smith. Those are kind of my picks for the top end. Do you have any difference of opinion on that one?
Yeah, no, I wrote up Rivers too. I have a pretty strong feeling about Rivers this week. I think it makes a lot of sense at his price. It's a little bit more than I typically like to pay in cash. I've been, I think, finding the most success paying down at quarterback in cash this year personally. But it is, for whatever reason, it's just something that jumped out to me right away. And I'm with you on Smith. I think if it was any other matchup, you could argue that it was chasing points, but Oakland's just abysmal, like you mentioned. So I'm perfectly fine with that. As we keep going down, obviously we wish that Stafford was healthy, because that would just be another smash spot. But I mean, as far as I've heard, he looks reasonably doubtful. I mean, and who is it? Rudick, whatever the hell you whatever the hell you
Jake
pronounce it.
Rudock, yeah,
Yeah,
Jake
it's like
Rudock, not great.
no, not great. So even at 4,500, I don't know. Would you even like take a stab at him?
No, I know Tampa's defense is god awful. Like it's so bad, but at the same point, there's some pretty good cheap options this week. I feel like a
Yeah.
quarterback. So I don't think you really have to pay down that far for a backup when you have some other options that can really be a good value to you. And we can jump into those if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my favorites this week. I mean, you gotta smash Hunley. This might be the last time we get to see him, right? I mean, this is this is our final Hail Mary with him. Even though I think he threw for about 40 yards last week.
Dude, it was so gross, so
It was
gross
bad.
last week. Oh my
It was
god.
real bad.
Yeah, like the fact that Brett Hundley's priced above Dak this week, just like mind-boggling.
Yeah.
We know he's playing Cleveland, but still, like I'm totally off Hundley. It's probably going to bite me in the ass because this will be like the troll game where Hundley, plays like he did against the Steelers. But I can't do it for 57, man. I'm off Hundley. I'm off that Packers team.
Yeah. So who are you looking at down in this 5K range?
Sure. So I think it starts with Jimmy Garoppolo. I know his weapons are limited, but he's got a great matchup against Houston. Defense that is certainly struggling against the pass. Garoppolo in his first start with like a dumbed down game plan, almost threw for 300 yards, like with just Marquise Goodwin out there. So super impressive for his first start as a 49er. For 5,500, I think he's certainly in play. Going down a bit lower than that, you can even look at someone on the opposite end of that. Even a Tom Savage against San Francisco. I don't think he's a cash play at all. But for GPPs, I think he's got some upside. Both of those teams play extremely fast. Their pace of play are both in the top 10 of the NFL. So you're going to see a very fast-paced game. And with two defenses that suck, you might get to see some points. So I think both those quarterbacks are in play, especially in GPPs.
Yeah, I think that game makes sense. You can really play that game a few different ways and feel pretty good about it when you're building lineups.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is it gross to throw out Jameis Winston too? I mean, he kind of seems like he's in a no man's land price wise, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not quite like priced up. He's not quite like the bargain that you'd hope for. But I don't know, man. I mean, he seemed to accumulate some yards at least. That's probably the nicest thing that you could say.
That's right.
But I mean, it happens, right? And Detroit hasn't exactly been, they're not bad by any stretch on pass D, but they're certainly not like tops in the league by any stretch either. And I think you can stack them up a couple different ways in some tournaments. Not a cash play for me, but he's eating a W on the cover of my quarterback article this week. So.
Got to promote the brand. Yeah, I think Jameis, he's certainly got some chance there. That game might actually be able to shoot out, depending on Stafford's health. Both pretty shitty defenses, especially against the pass. And, yeah, if Jameis can get it together. The one concern is just that offensive line. Green Bay beat Jameis to death last week. They had 7 sacks in that game. So that's my one concern, especially with Jameis coming off a shoulder issue. We perceive him to be fully healthy. So, yeah, I could definitely see Jameis as a GPP play. But what about the guy right above him? What about Josh the GOAT at 6K?
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep playing him and just printing money, right? I mean, the guy has just been a model of consistency and really gets no real mainstream love. I think the DFS community sort of has an appreciation for him, but overall, I don't think he's getting the recognition for sort of the year that he's put together versus what the expectation was to start the year. I did see that Robbie Anderson popped up on the injury report today, which is a little concerning on a Thursday for him to pop up with a hamstring. I don't know if that. I don't know. Does that really alter your opinion that much on playing McCown this week, or you think he can still get it done?
So we have to see what happens tomorrow. So if Anderson's like a no-go tomorrow, like a DNP, I'd say, yeah, then that's going to be a big concern. But if he's limited practice and we think he's going to play, I could see McCown still being viable. I mean, it's crazy. Denver's given up the most passing touchdowns in the league. You could have given me you could have given me like crazy odds, and I would have said there's no chance that the Denver Broncos would ever give up the most passing touchdowns in the league. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, definitely check the injury report on Friday. Obviously, recording on Thursday night, so check that out. Make sure he's actually either practicing or at least have a limited practice, and then I think McCown's certainly in play still.
Yeah, definitely. Outside of that, maybe cheating upwards a little bit further. I don't know. I'd like your thoughts on this Seattle game. I'm of the mindset that if Blaine Gabbert can drop like 18 or 19 on Jacksonville, that I feel like Russell Wilson can probably figure out a way to get there. I mean, obviously, you wish this game was in Seattle. You'd feel a hell of a lot better about it. But even so, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Wilson this week? I think I can. I think I'm definitely going to have some exposure to him.
No, I think you should. Yeah, he's definitely a contrarian play because everyone's going to see that big red one against him for Jacksonville's defense.
Yeah.
And to your point, I mean, he's just getting it done. He's a #1 quarterback in fantasy since his bye week. I think J.J. Zacharyson put that out earlier today or something like that. It's just insane of how consistently good he's been, just making play after play. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be contrarian this week and definitely worth a GPP play. But speaking about Blaine Gabbert, I mean, 4,800 at home against the Titans, who Tom Savage just kind of ripped up. What's your thought about Blaine Gabbert? Super cheap this week.
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense. I think I wrote him up in the article as well this week. I think he's, he's obviously made his mistakes. He's still growing in that offense and hasn't really totally figured it out. And I was reading something today that Arians was sort of saying as much, that, he's still trying to really get a handle on the offense and get it clicking. But he has, he has the physical tools for sure. And just he's putting up points, right? I mean, that's all for 4,800. You're not really putting a ton of I don't know, expectation on his points. He can get you 15 or 16 points even in a sort of mediocre game. And I think that game should, I don't know. I think 44 seems low to me. I think that game could go over that. I don't think it's going to be like some 35-31 game or anything, no. But I do think it can go over 44. So I think there could be some touchdowns to be had, and who the hell's running it, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, the crappy thing is, like, Tennessee's offense has just been so bad for most of the season. And they play so slow that even if they have to play catch up, it's just gonna Tennessee's gonna milk the clock as much as it possibly can.
Yeah,
running with like old man Murray and stuff like that. So it's. I don't know how well this game's going to shoot out, but I do think Gabbert's got a really good chance of at least hitting value, especially in GPPs. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I mean, outside of that, like we mentioned, I think that you can definitely go quite a few different ways in GPPs, but I don't know. Is there anybody that you think we're missing big time on here?
We should probably talk about Andy Dalton, home spot against Chicago. Like a team that's clearly like giving up on the year. And Dalton, after a pretty good game against Pittsburgh, he and AJ Green definitely had the connection going. And now Gio Bernard, probably, as we'll get to in our next section. I think they could be in a decent spot here if you're stacking up Bengals.
Yeah, definitely. That works. I scrolled right past them. So why don't we stay in that game and just talk about Gio for a second? What are we just chewing on the chalk this week?
Yeah, man, lock it in. Like, as long as Joe Mixon isn't playing, you can lock in Giovanni Bernard. I think, what is he? Like, he's super cheap.
He's 3,100. Like, ridiculous.
20 touches. Yeah, at least 20 touches without Joe Mixon in there. Lock him in. Like, cash, GPP, I don't care. Just throw him in.
Yeah, I think you have to. It's just wild to me that he hasn't been used as much this year. Like, he's just obviously super talented. I looked it up before. In games, he's had 26 games in his career where he's seen at least 5 targets, and he's averaging 15 PPR points in those games. This is definitely going to be a 5+ target game, I would say, pretty safely if Joe Mixon is out. So that's something that you're definitely locking in at 3,100. Even if he was 4,100, I think he would be super chalk. So,
Yep.
perfectly good with that. Then why don't we flip up to the 7K and up guys? We have Gurley, Melvin Gordon, LaShawn McCoy, and Leonard Fournette. So, how are we sort of deciphering through these four guys?
Man, it's ugly. It's really ugly at the top. Like it's gross. I know Gurley's so damn good and he's so involved in the passing game, but Philly is one of the best defenses in the league against running backs. They have speed at linebacker. Their defensive lines are just a beast of 8 different guys they roll in and out. So I'm not going to be playing a lot of Gurley. A couple of GPP lineups maybe with him, but definitely not a cash game consideration for me. Same with Melvin Gordon. Like totally burnt me these last couple of weeks, so I'm off Melvin Gordon even in a good spot at home against Washington. He just hasn't been performing in good spots. Like when that doesn't happen against inferior competition, I don't want you in my cash game lineup. The one guy I'm kind of honing in on is Shady. Obviously, we don't know if Ty God's playing or not this week, but even without Ty God in the lineup, Shady's going to get 20 touches against an Indianapolis team who just sucks. Like this team's so bad. As a home favorite, I'm in on Shady at 7,200. He's going to save you some money from Gurley. He's involved in the passing game because Travaris Cadet's beat up. He's not going to play, we don't think. So he'll retake that passing game role as well. So I think Shady's definitely cash game viable.
Yeah, for sure. I looked it up before, and since the start of 2015, when he's been a home favorite against a rushing defense outside of the top 10, he's averaging 27 PPR points a game. Like just
Beautiful.
lock it in 7,200. I'll take that all day long.
Yep.
Outside of that, like you mentioned, I'm not screwing around with Melvin Gordon. I'm completely done with him. I don't care about the volume anymore. I'm just completely over it.
Yep.
And then as we head to sort of this mid-range, I actually have, speaking of the San Francisco Houston game, I got a little Lamar Miller love, and
Yep.
he's always been my sort of my bugaboo. I always feel like I can never get the guy right, and I don't know. I just think that this is a great spot for him this week. Are you with me, or are you giving me the nah wave?
No, man, I'm feeling it. Like home favorite spot against a defense who just is complete trash. If we think Houston's going to be able to score points, and of course their pace of play is up there too, so Miller should get a ton of chances against a defense who's nowhere near as good as Tennessee at stopping the run. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling it for Lamar Miller. He's kind of in a funky spot pricing wise in terms of roster construction this week because when we get to receiver, there's a lot of names you're going to want to pay up for. But yeah, like I totally like him a lot. I think he's a really good play.
Yeah, I think he can get you on some interesting builds, like you mentioned. I think it sort of forces you to make like one different decision that you might have made otherwise if you
Mhm.
just were going, high and low or a couple of budget guys. So I think it makes a lot of sense, especially in tournaments, because it'll definitely put you on some guys that you might not have considered in the first place. And then we have, I don't know, that two of my least favorite guys at 65 and 6,700 in Kareem Hunt and Christian McCaffrey. Are you touching either of these guys this week?
Not a chance.
All right.
Not at all. I'm off both of them. Minnesota's defense is so damn good against running backs, especially pass catching running backs. They allowed nearly nothing against those guys. And Kareem Hunt he's not getting the workload. Like even in a great spot against Oakland at home, I need to see it again before I believe it. I will have no exposure to Kareem Hunt this week.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the right play. Because it's been brutal to watch, man. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it just think about what we all thought in like week 2, right? And just compared to now, like you said before about Denver's pass defense, like there's so much weird shit that happened this year that we just could not have seen coming at all. So we have those guys, and then I do want to mention Carlos Hyde. I mean, obviously not the not the greatest. Didn't look the greatest last week, but are you going to be jumping in on him this week, or are we staying away?
So the one thing that was a bit disappointing was the lack of passing game involvement this past week with Hyde. With Garoppolo there, he's able to distribute the ball actually to the wide receivers a lot better and really have a lot more time and then dumping it off to running backs. So Hyde still saw some targets, but nowhere near the production that we saw the last couple of weeks, especially in the passing game. So I would probably be off Hyde, except for small GPPs if you're stacking that Houston and San Francisco game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then sort of above 5K, besides that, we have like names, right? We have like interesting names, but I'm not sure exactly how to feel about anybody at this point. I mean, we have Lynch, we have P. Ryan, we have Alf there, you have Jordan Howard, you have McKinnon, you have Murray. Like, what are we? Is this just a total dead range, or is there somebody jumping out to you here?
I mean, the only one that's in a really good spot you would think is Alf, but again, he doesn't catch passes, so it's hard to play him, especially in cash. Like I could see you throw him in a GPP lineup, but all these other guys, like just tough spots. I mean, how much is Marshawn really going to get the ball if it's a shootout against Kansas City?
Right.
P. Ryan's a big dog or a dog on the road in LA. Like he's not going to see a ton of touches. Jordan Howard's a road dog. McKinnon hasn't seen the volume. Like Murray might get some work, but Carolina's good against the run. So it's
Right.
I think it's a total dead zone, this area.
Yeah, which I think also, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how ownership spreads out in that sort of range. Just because, like we mentioned, I mean, I don't know how many people, sort of casual people, are going to be in on Miller at this price anyway. But it just seems like people are going to scroll all the way up and then scroll all the way down and not really pay too much attention. So Godspeed if you could figure out which one of these guys gets a touchdown, because if you do, you'll probably be in sort of a different lineup and figure something out down here. But I'm not gonna screw around. As we keep going down under 5K, we have I guess Peterson is almost definitely out, right? He's still not practicing, still nothing going on.
Yep.
So I don't know. We have, like you mentioned, Old Man Murray. We have this Green Bay Cleveland pair in Aaron Jones and Johnson. I mean, we have Peyton Barber, who might be chalky if Doug Martin's not around this week. What are we thinking up here?
Yeah, I mean, Martin's back. He cleared concussion protocol. He's playing. He practiced today. I think he had a full practice today. Then Dirk Cutter comes out and said, "No, I'm not going to name a starter. You'll find out Sunday at 1:00." So that's just a total cluster.
Right.
So unless you really want to take a shot at Peyton Barber coming off a really good game is the guy. I'm definitely not playing him in cash. Theo might have some appeal again with Abdullah kind of beat up. So I know they priced him up a bit this week now at 4,500. So he could have some love here. And obviously if Jake Rudock's playing, his upside's limited, but you would think Rudock's not going to be taking many deep shots like Marvin Jones. He'll probably be dumping the ball off to guys like Theo. Other than that, man, it's tough. Like I don't like Murray at all because Henry looks so much better. He kind of broke up that long run at the end last week against Houston to steal the game. Jones didn't really do a whole lot. Jamal Williams carried the load for most of it, besides that last touchdown. And Duke wasn't really involved with Josh Gordon back. Like this zone it sucks. Like this whole 4K and up is just brutal.
Yeah, it's like we said, it really gets ugly pretty quick. That's why you got to go with you got to just keep scrolling all the way down to Geo. Outside of that, I don't know. I am thinking that Mike Davis could be a thing this week at 3,700. I'm buying into the snaps that he's seeing, and he had 20 touches last week, I think. Saw like close to 75% of the snaps. So it's definitely I don't know. You would think that they would want to get a running game going, right? Like in theory, that would be the way to make sure that you can get with that crap O-line, that you can get a little bit of respect for a running game and take some pressure off of Russ in theory. I don't know how that pans out, but I will definitely have some exposure to him just because I think the price is so low that it doesn't really kill you either way.
Exactly, yeah. The price per touch, like it's so cheap to get him with 20 touches potentially in this game. I mean, obviously it's a low over under at 40 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're expecting kind of a grinded out type of game, and Mike Davis is that type of back. Like he's even getting work in the passing game, catching dump offs and screens. So yeah, I totally agree on that one. I think you should have some exposure to him at 3,700.
Anybody else down here in this 3K wasteland?
Oh, God, geez, it's really kind of gross. You can tell yourself a story about Byron Marshall at 3,400 if Washington gets down in that game. He is kind of the default passing game back right now for the Redskins. But again, that's like a 5% GPP play. Same with DJ Foster in Arizona, passing game player. If they're going to get down against Tennessee, he's going to have to get a bunch of work. Even though we've kind of seen Colonel Williams take the vast majority of the work there, Foster's still been kind of involved in the passing game.
All right. So as we head over to wide receiver, we have a couple of target hogs, right? We have Hopkins and Allen all the way up at the top, 83 and 8,500. They're the two most expensive guys on the slate this week. So we got to find a way to jam them in, right? This is like Bell Johnson last year, right?
That's right. Yeah, just load them up, right? No, I mean, I love both these guys this week. It's hard to make a decision either way. If you can jam them both, then I think you do it because there is some value at tight end that we'll talk about in a bit here. But, I mean, obviously the matchup isn't as good for Keenan Allen as it is for Hopkins. God, Hopkins saw like 18 targets last week or some crazy shit like that. It was insane. It's ridiculous. It's like 50% of the targets just go to Hopkins. Will Fuller might be back, though, this week. Whereas I think he practiced for the first time in like 3 months or something like that. So
yeah,
he might be playing. But yeah, Keenan, I think both of them are in great spots. I think AJ's in a great spot too. I don't know if you wanted to kind of talk about him real quick, but for 7,300, man, he's in a great spot against a defense that's kind of given up. So I like AJ Green too at 73.
Yeah, I think you can definitely rotate two of those three in a couple of different combinations and hope that you hit them the right way.
Yep.
Obviously, just like you mentioned earlier, Chicago is just awful. Like just really, really tough to watch. So I mean, AJ is just, I'll play AJ no matter what the matchup is. So that works for me. As we keep going down, though, I don't know. I think we have a lot of seemingly good matchups. I do want to mention before we go too deep down, because I am definitely going to be talking about Josh Gordon in a minute, but we do have Devontae Adams up here as well at 6,600. This game, as of right now, the forecasts are like calling for 20-mile-an-hour winds during this game. Which in Cleveland, which is definitely something to keep in mind. I think, what was it? Action Network, whatever the hell they are, Action Network, Sports Insights, whatever the hell they are. I get their emails, and they had a whole thing about how the only thing that matters is wind. Like, I think they said games under 40 degrees still hit the over 60% of the time.
There you go.
And it like temperature literally has no effect. It's strictly wind over 15 miles an hour. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Again, it's Thursday night, so things can definitely change because most meteorologists suck. But that's just something to keep in the back of your head as you're looking through. So quick weather aside, what else are we doing up here in this? Let's say like from Fitz up to Thielen.
Yeah, man, I do love Fitz. I think he's in a great spot against Tennessee, who just can't cover anyone in the passing game. Like we saw tons of volume with Nuke last week, and I think Fitz can definitely see double-digit targets at 6,500 in a pretty good spot here. I'm not really big into Devontae Adams, especially after last week, him being so damn chalky. I know it's against Cleveland, but again, McCourty's been pretty damn good this year, so I would stay off him at 66. Crabtree's interesting. He is against Kansas City. I know that someone put a stat out where he really hasn't had many big games against the Chiefs this year, or in his career, I should say, in Oakland. But like, it's a really good spot, isn't it? Like, I feel like I want to play him. He's like the only really option there. I mean, unless you think Cordero Patterson's like the GOAT, which some people do. So I think
Yeah, I mean,
Crabtree's a good spot.
yeah, I mean, for a Crabtree, you're looking at a guy who's probably going to get a substantial amount of targets funneled to him. You're looking at a matchup where arguably their best cornerback is suspended, and even their best cornerback hasn't even been playing well anyway. So who really gives a shit at the end of the day, right? Like, it's still a good matchup regardless of what goes on there. So I'm on board with that too. I think obviously Cooper is very questionable, right? With the ankle. I think he cleared concussion, but he's still on the ankle. I don't know. I can't keep up with this shit anymore.
He's a mess, dude. Like, can't you just see like halfway through this game that Kansas City throws Revis back out there and Oakland just lines up Crabtree across from Revis the entire rest of the game, and he just dominates Revis. Like, I could totally see that
make me happier.
I could totally see that happening.
For sure.
And on the other side of that game, I mean, Ty Freak, right? Like, your boy, 7,100, just coming in, dropping bombs like it's nobody's business.
He's the woe. He's gonna suck. They're at home, so he's not gonna score any points this week.
So it's a Kelsey week then.
He sucks, man. He's the fucking worst.
I know you hate Tyreek Hill. You hate him so
just
much.
The worst. All his 3-point games this year, and he goes like for 30 the next week and averages it out. I hate it so much. It's so tilting. I don't think I've rostered him once.
I know. I think I rostered him like 2 weeks in a row, and those were like the 2 4-point weeks. I was like, God damn it.
Exactly.
It's so frustrating.
It's the worst.
If you do want to be contrarian, though, I think we do have to talk about Marvin Jones at 68. Like, again, we talked about Tampa's crappy defense, and if Stafford actually plays, I'm in on him. Deep threat, just making things happen out there. So I'm a big fan of Marvin Jones and totally off Mike Evans. Like, Mike Evans is dead to me. I'm not going to roster him the rest of the year. I don't care.
If Stafford's out, you're playing Jones, or are you going?
If Stafford's not playing. I'm sorry. If Stafford is playing, I'm playing Jones.
Because then if Stafford's not playing, then you got to go Galladay for the preseason love, right?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Got to do it.
Probably. Yeah.
If you don't throw that in one line, like if you're aware of that connection and you don't throw it in one lineup and it hits, you're going to be so tilted all
You're going to kill yourself.
Sunday.
You're absolutely going to kill yourself. Yeah.
That would be the worst. I will definitely – maybe I'll just do it in the listener league just for shits and giggles this weekend.
Just for the hell of it. Yeah, we can do that. All right, let's talk about your boy Josh Gordon. Let's do it.
I mean, how can you argue with that, right? I mean, when was the last time he played? Like, I think I was in high school the last time that he played.
Jesus. Yeah, it's at least like 10 years ago.
Yeah, easily, right? So I can't even believe, like, I can't put into words. Like, Hayward comes out and is like, toughest matchup all year, and they list all the guys that he's gone up against this year. Like, he's just so fucking good. I'm so mad that there's wind in this game because all my season-long teams that have him on it now, I'm like, can I still do it? But I mean, for the targets that he's going to see at 5,500, if the win can just drop down to like 14, I'll feel a hell of a lot better about it. But I mean, that secondary's trash. In the metric that I put together against the wide receiver, they're 29th. Green Bay, this is they're 29th against the wide receiver. So I'm fully on board. I'm a complete believer. I'm so happy that he's back, and I just love it. Love everything about it.
Cash game?
With the win, probably not.
Okay.
I think that's enough to make me a little bit nervous. And I do think, like we sort of alluded to, like, there's so much value at running back, and we'll get to a couple of cheap tight ends that we like. I think you can get away with paying up a little bit for a wide receiver. I don't know. I would, like I said, I would love to without the win, but I think it's just a little too scary for me at this point. Who else do you like in this range?
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy, actually. I think in a GPP you have to throw in Doug Baldwin. I mean, his price drop, I think, like $1,200 or something like that from last week. I know it's a quote unquote tough matchup against Jacksonville, but at the same time they gave up, production of Blaine Gabbert. So for 5,400, certainly GPP worthy if you want to go totally contrary and stack him up with Russell Wilson, and potentially win some good money on that one. I have an interesting name here. I know he's not playing in the dome, but what do you think of T.Y. Hilton with Tre'Davious White out after being like elbow dropped by Gronk?
Yeah, that was
Dirty.
gross to
It's
watch,
dirty.
man. That
Yeah,
was just
it's
so
really
fucked
dirty.
up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's so hard to get on board with Indy. Like I don't know if I can do it. I mean, I would love, like you said, they're obviously on the road at the Ralph. I would much rather take a shot on this if they were home.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm making 20 lineups for the play action or something like that, maybe I can throw them into one or two,
Mhm.
but I couldn't. Probably just one, honestly. I don't know if I can get there. Why don't you? Can you talk me into it, or are you
No,
lukewarm
I
as
mean, I
well?
think it's just the matchup at on outside corner. I just don't think Buffalo can really even cover anybody right now. That they're running out of a
Yeah.
defensive backs. Like, and Hilton, I mean, Hilton was in a good spot. We said a couple weeks ago, didn't really hit. So this would be like again that comeback spot where he turns it on. So
Yeah,
totally contrarian play. Completely agree with you on that one.
I'm just a little worried about that game in general. Like you can easily see, like Peterman starting the game, right? And then it's just like four pick sixes and Indy never actually gets on offense. Like all the points scored are just pick sixes.
Oh my god.
Like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that's like easily in the realm of possibility. So
that's true.
um I don't know. I can see it. Like we always say, he can get loose on one play and at, what is he, 5,700,
Yep.
sit a 60-yard touchdown. You're talking about 13 points already. And then he just needs a couple more catches to hit value. So I get it. Um, I don't know. I'd rather take a shot on Gordon in the wind
Yeah.
than Helton though.
Totally fair. Yep.
We mentioned Goodwin before as well. Seems like he has a little bit of a connection going there with Garoppolo, right? So I think that could pay off a little bit, and he's another guy just like freakishly fast
Mhm.
and can easily get behind any defense, like even a good, bad, indifferent defense. It doesn't really matter. So I think that makes sense as well. Um, we were talking about the Tennessee Arizona game and how Tennessee can't really get out of their own way, but it looks like last I saw, I think Peterson is a little bit nicked up.
Oh yeah,
So
man.
you know what
Patrick
that
Peterson's beat
means.
up. The return of Rashard Matthews, man. Like he
Richard
would.
week.
Oh yeah. If Patrick Peterson isn't playing, Rashard Matthews might be a lock, like cash game lock, just because Mariota only throws to two guys. It's Rashard Matthews and Delaney Walker.
Yep.
Like Corey Davis, he's super talented. We think he'll be a damn good pro. Just he dropped one shallow cross over the middle last week, and Mariota just stopped throwing the ball.
Right.
Like just did not happen anymore. So yeah, like he was throwing to Eric Decker on like go routes instead of throwing to Corey Davis last week. Just mind boggling.
Can you even call
Um,
like a route that Eric Decker runs a go route anymore? Is that the
uh,
proper terminology?
it's like a jog route. I'll
Yeah,
call it a jog route.
it's like an eventually route.
Yes, yes, totally. But yeah, dude, if Patrick Peterson isn't playing, just throw Rashard Matthews in almost all your lineups because he's going to smash. To love him at 4,900. Again, like you said, go in at 51. If you're going a little bit lower than that, I do think a good, interesting PPP play. But you go back to D.D. Westbrook at 42. Seattle definitely struggles against smaller, quick wide receivers. We've seen J.J. Nelson like torch them in the past. So I think D's got interesting upside at 4,200 in that game. And then the other receiver in San Francisco we should talk about is Trent Taylor, man. 3,300. The slot man. We know how much Jimmy Garoppolo likes to throw the ball in the middle of the field. And he caught all 6 of his targets last week for over 90 yards against this Houston defense. Like, if you're not, you can definitely get some leverage on the field by playing Taylor at 3,300 versus Goodwin at 51.
Yeah, that works for me. I mean that stack definitely makes sense, right? And you save just an outrageous amount of money. What is Garoppolo's like 5,500? So you're
Yeah.
talking about 8,800 for a QB wide receiver stack is not is not something you can usually play and it be like a decent option.
Right.
Anybody else jumping out to you down here? I mean, that's like super low, but anybody in sort of like the mid threes or anywhere else or
There wasn't a whole lot. Obviously, Galladay's there at 3,900, and Ryan Grant's there also at 3,900. I think he's interesting. Saw some more volume last week because I think Doxson will probably be matched up against Casey Hayward on the outside, and Grant's, Cousins likes to spread the ball around. We've seen that. Jordan Reed's not playing again, which is good news. It's just Grant could definitely get you one of those touchdowns like he scored at the end of the half last week. If he can do that, like he did, and duplicate that effort, he'll hit value pretty easily. And then to be like contrarian against all the guys that are playing Josh Gordon, like Corey Coleman's $4,100 against the same crappy Green Bay defense.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so why don't we shoot over to tight end? We have a $7,400 Travis Kelce going against this woeful Oakland defense. So are we jamming him in, or do we have to save a tight end this week?
I think you do it, man. Like it's a very. I think you definitely play two tight ends this week with Kelce and one of the cheap guys we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, like super great spot, home, Raiders defense. I like Chris Joseph's not good at football right now. He's not playing very well. Anyone they're going to throw at him, he'll just eat. So I really like Travis Kelce this week a lot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm definitely in on Kelce. I think it'll be interesting to see how how ownership shakes out across these like super high priced guys, because there's, you can't fit obviously the top three wide receivers and Kelce. So somebody's going to be the odd man out. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. A few hours ago, they did announce that Ertz did clear concussion protocol. So he looks in line to play this weekend at Los Angeles. They're playing the Rams, obviously. So what are we doing with him?
So it's a really interesting spot because this game's got a 48 over under. Philly or the Rams are actually pretty good against tight ends. Alec Ogletree's been a lot better in coverage the last few weeks than he started the year. I'm trying to figure out how Philly's going to score points in this game. I mean, is it the running game, which it could be? And at that point, it's who the hell knows with those backs, like who's going to actually get the usage. Like, is it an Alshon week? Like, I don't know what Philly playmaker I want to potentially roster.
Yeah, I think this is like, I just feel like this whole thing, like this is the exact like thought process that I've been going through. It's just a hard avoid for me. Like, I don't really feel confident enough in this game for Philly to just come out and smash for me to be like, okay, I need to spread it out, my exposure, and hope for the best and hope I hit somewhere. I think that I'm just probably going to limit my exposure, plug them in sparingly, and just kind of avoid Wentz because I think the price is too high this week. So I'm probably just going to sprinkle them in with some other stacks that I like and hope that I find some upside somewhere. But I'm not really feeling this the Philly side of that game at all. Then we have, Evan Ingram is just going to smash, right? Like, the crowd is going to be in a frenzy. Like, I'm full narrative. I wish I was going to the game. I'd have my Eli jersey on this week. Like, it's going to be a smash. They're going to destroy Dallas. You know this, right? Like,
I hope. Like, as a Giant fan, I hope so. As a rational football fan, I think they get destroyed. Like,
no way. They're winning by 2 scores.
Oh my God.
Spags is going to have the boys swarm into the football. It's going to be great. It's going to be vintage Giants football. I'm telling you.
Wish. I mean, they play tough against Dallas. Like, their defense always plays well against Dallas because Jenkins just shuts down Dez and he can't do anything the whole game, and that like frustrates him, and he's yelling at Dak on the sideline and shit like that. But I don't know, man. I think Ingram definitely is in a good spot just because but Sean Lee's back too, man. Like, it's so I'm so torn between playing Ingram and like not playing it.
I don't know, man. I think you got to do it somewhere.
All right.
I mean, not by, obviously I'm being a little hyperbolic here. I don't actually think they're going to win by 2 scores. I think they're probably going to lose on a last minute field goal, because that just seems to be like the
Giant
going
football.
rate for Giants this year. But I do think that we see sort of a concerted effort to get him involved this week, which I've said before, and he's gotten like a 2 target game. So you know, what the hell do I know? But I think that there's definitely something there, obviously. And I think over the last few games of the season, they're going to want to give him some more work, because he's going to need, you know, he has this opportunity where he's one of the only guys sort of available, right, besides Shepard, that anybody on that team is even going to see next year, right? Like King's not going to be back. Like Lewis isn't going to be back. Like, going to be on the team. So I think that they show him some love and get him involved this week. Why don't you tell me your favorite cheap tight end this week?
God, there's so many. Like I like a lot of these guys down at the floor. Obviously, before the Ertz news, it was Trey Burton at 2,900, but that's not in play anymore.
Would have been so nice, man.
It was so nice. It was such great value. Like plugging him and Gio in would have been so nice to add him in the lineups. But there's a bunch of guys I like. We'll start at 3,600 with Austin Seferian-Jenkins. This guy has like 5 overturned touchdowns this year so far. It's insane. Like it's so brutal and so tilting if you rostered him. And this week he's in such a good spot at Denver. Denver just cannot cover tight ends at all. They're so bad against tight ends. So I like Austin Seferian-Jenkins. We have to talk about Ricky Seals-Jones. I mean, just the total just stud out there playing against Tennessee, 3,400. But my favorite out of this group is Steven Anderson, 3,200 for the Houston Texans. CJ Fedorowicz is out with a concussion. Bruce Ellington will not be playing either in this game, but stay tuned to see if Will Fuller will play. But Anderson's good, man. Like he's a converted wide receiver, athletic kid. Really made some great catches this past week. Great hands catches. The end zone target that he had was kind of sprawling on the ground and made a really nice catch there. Pretty good athlete, and he should see a bunch of volume. So for 32, I really like Steven Anderson.
Yeah, what do you see? Like a dozen targets last week, right? It was nuts. He was fully involved, and if you can, I mean, I don't think it's reasonable to project another 12 targets, but even if he sees half that many targets at 3,200, you would imagine that he has a reasonable shot to score and can put up some points. So I'm fully on board with that. I have a little, I don't know, man. I'm such a fucking sucker for Jameis Winston. Like I kind of like Cameron Braid again this week. He's been so much better when Jameis has been in. Like I think it's like 8 extra PPR points in the games that Jameis has like finished the game, not just like started, because obviously he got hurt. So I'm sort of in on Cam Braid this week. And then all the guys that you mentioned, man, I think that there's just a ton of good spots down in this range, and you can sort of reasonably assume that they're going to see the targets that you hope for. So I think tight end should be interesting. One of these guys is going to have 2 touchdowns, right? So they're gonna win you all the money.
They'll win you a million maker. That's right.
Exactly. It's just a matter of who the hell actually does it, and if you combine them with anybody else that's worth playing.
Right.
All right, so you want to give me your favorite defense, and I can abstain, and then we can hit some stacks and get out of here.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, I think I'm starting off with the Bengals, 3,300 at home. I know it's a short week against Chicago, but Chicago's offense just looks absolutely terrible. They lost Josh Sitton. Kyle Long's not playing on the offensive line. They're just a shit show right now. Mitch Trubisky looks totally lost. So yeah, if I really like the Cincinnati Bengals for 3,300. Indy might be in play at 35. It's Nathan Peterman. Only if Nathan Peterman starts. If Tyrod plays, no chance. Chargers, I like them. 3,600. Washington's offensive line's kind of a mess. Morgan Moses, their right tackle, might not play in this one. If he does not play and their backup has to play, he was so bad last week. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram will, again, beat the crap out of Kirk Cousins. Kind of going down a little bit further, I know you're not going to like this take, but I kind of like the Cowboys at 2,900.
No
Giants offensive
way.
line. Giants offensive line's a mess, man.
Eli's
Like
throwing for 4 touchdowns this weekend.
I know. Pew had a setback though. Like
Yeah, no, I know.
it's just so brutal. So but I think they're good for at least 4 or 5 sacks in this one. DeMarcus Lawrence is playing out of his mind right now. He's so damn good. So I think I like that play as well at 2,900. Anything lower than that, you're just throwing darts. Like if you think that somehow the Chiefs get like a pick six against Carr for 2,400, they're super cheap, and you can stack them up with Tyreek. Try to get that double dip with that punt return. But other than that, like it's not looking great for anything lower than that.
Yeah, I don't have my my traditional like $2,400 love defense this week. I'm not seeing it. So
no value special.
No, I don't know, man. It's pretty gross. The only one that I was thinking was the Bengals, because would Chicago run like 35 plays last week or something ridiculous?
Because San Francisco, Garoppolo just moved the ball down the field, man. He was so efficient and so good. Like, yeah, Chicago just never touched the ball.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely in the range of outcomes this week, that Chicago, they just won't run any plays, and when they do, they don't sustain drives. So right. What else are you going to do? All right, so why don't we hit a couple stacks and close out for the night. I can start us off if you want this week. I am definitely going to take some shots with Garoppolo and Goodwin. I think that is definitely a connection that seems to, at least through like a super small sample size, seem to be there, right? Mm-hmm. And then outside of that, I think that figuring out, I mean, I don't know. I really want to, I just keep saying it, I just really want Jameis to be a thing. So I'm just going to keep dying on that hill every single week, stack him up with Brate. I'm not stacking him up with Evans because I'm not paying for Evans this week.
Good man.
That's kind of where I'm at on that. We didn't mention it at all, but I'm just going to have one of Case to Thielen. I think this is not a great matchup by any stretch, but I think that after sort of I don't know, it was definitely not Thielen's best week last week. I think that they make an effort to get him back rolling again. So I think that would be sort of a low-owned, sort of shot in the dark narrative stack.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good call, because like you said, a lot of people were on him last week in a higher total game kind of premier matchup, and they disappointed. So that's a great call by you, man. I really like that one. So for me, a pretty chalky stack: Rivers to Keenan Allen, 2 really high priced guys in this slate, but I both think they're really good, excellent plays. Alex Smith and Travis Kelce. If you want to be, go buck wild, you go with Tyreek in there as well, and run it back with Michael Crabtree on the other end for Oakland. A little bit lower owned, like I said before. I'm kind of liking the Blaine Gabbert to Larry Fitzgerald stack against Tennessee. I think there's a lot of upside there, and a game which could potentially shoot out. Even with Tennessee playing slow, Arizona is one of the top 10 in terms of pace of play in the league. And then we could always stack up that Houston-San Francisco game fully and bring it back with like your favorite play, whether it's Steven Anderson, whether it's Nuke, whoever you like there.
Yeah, for sure. I do have to just quickly mention, as I finished saying Keenum and Thielen and you started talking, I looked to my left to the TV, and Keenum is sitting next to Thielen for the Game Day Mornings commercial. So that is definitely a thing that's happening this week.
It's a sign. Put it, at least everyone out there listening, put one Keenum Thielen lineup in there for you.
That was wild. I literally just looked over and I was like, oh shit, it's happening.
That's really funny. That's awesome, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for joining me this week. We have you defending your title, hopefully successfully. If I don't take it down this week, I'm rooting for you. Don't forget, make sure you follow both of us on Twitter. I'm at Matt Jones TFR. You can find Steve at The Real Halupka, and check out bogeyfreedfs.com. I'm back on my grind again. I took a little Thanksgiving hiatus and had a bit of a sickness this week, so I'm still at about 80%, but I'm working on it. So Good luck this week, and talk to you guys soon. See you.